What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now I am super excited for today's video because this is a video that I've been working on for a while now. Today I wanted to share with you something that I've been working on for a few months now, and that is the greenhouse behind me. Now, not only is it something that I wanted to do and set up for a while, but it's also something that will enable me to create and film more DIY, hydroponics, and gardening videos year-round. Now, it's no mystery that those are some of my more popular videos on this channel, so I'm going to try and focus on more of that type of content going forward. Now, I'll still do occasional product reviews and unboxing videos, but a majority of those videos will slowly migrate to my everyday unboxing channel. So if you haven't done so already and you're interested in that content, please do subscribe to that channel as well. The link will be in the description section below. Okay, so to kick off this journey, today's video is sponsored by Temu, who sent me this greenhouse to unbox, set up, and review. Now the good thing about Temu, as most of you might know, is that you can find everyday products that you want at discounted and cheaper rates for the exact same products that are available at other retailers. Take this greenhouse for example. This particular greenhouse costs roughly about $1,000 or more at most other retailers, but only as little as under $600 on Temu. Now you may have to wait a little longer to get it, but all in all, it is the same exact product and build quality as the ones on Amazon, Walmart, and other local retailers. In this case, I received it in as little as a week after I ordered it. Now, if you're interested in this or any other product, feel free to use my referral link in the video description section below. Your support really helps me to do more of these videos. Anyways, in this video, I'll take you through the unboxing and assembly of this greenhouse, as well as everything I did to prepare for the placement of this greenhouse in my backyard. That includes a quick time lapse of laying the paver foundation, which the greenhouse now sits on. I'll also let you know about the things that you need to consider and watch out for, as well as issues that I ran into and how I addressed those problems. Now there are some additional add-ons and enhancements that I'm planning to get for this greenhouse in order for it to be ready, and I'll briefly talk about that as we progress through the video. And I'll also give you a sneak peek of what I've been working on for the past few months since my last hydroponics update, which is also something we'll continue to focus on in future weekly or bi-weekly videos. Okay everyone, so as mentioned before, Temu is sponsoring this video and they did send me this greenhouse to assemble and review on this channel. But they aren't paying me for this video, so you can expect that I will give you my honest opinion and my feedback about the greenhouse itself. Now as for Temu, I do love their site because you can get virtually anything you need from them at closer to the manufacturer's cost without a huge markup like on most other US retail chains, and pretty much at the same quality. Anyways, going back to the video. Now while I was waiting for the delivery of the greenhouse, I started to plan and build the foundation for the greenhouse. Now for this type of build, I wanted something temporary, but something that I could potentially repurpose, add on to, or even remove if needed in the future if our backyard plans changed. Now this is why I decided to go with a paver base rather than a full concrete slab. Now as you can see from the video, I started by outlining a space just a little bit bigger than the actual dimensions of the greenhouse, taking into account the measurements of the pavers I planned to use, which of course I was buying from Lowe's. Overall, I spent most of day 1 and day 2 removing a lot of the grass in order to create the space where I was going to place the greenhouse. Now looking back, one of the areas where I could have saved some money was by making my own pavers. Since the greenhouse Temu was sending me measured about 6 feet by 12 feet, and the pavers I was using measured 23 by 23 inches, I started out by making a space measuring 14 feet by 8 feet, which of course would give me about 1 extra foot all around the greenhouse. This equaled about 28 of the 23 by 23 pavers from Lowe's, which cost me around $280. Now, this did not include the price of the paver sand and some of the bags of cement and other things that I ended up buying for this project. So at the end of this video, I'll tally up the costs to try to give you an overview of how much I spent for this project. Now looking back, one of the areas where I could have saved some money was by making my own pavers. Now the good thing about using pavers is that I could easily expand this surface area in the future if I needed to, since at some point I am going to definitely want to expand or get a larger greenhouse as my needs change, which I also happen to account for in my plan. Now once I removed the grass and tampered the area a bit where I wanted to place my greenhouse, I cut open a few bags of paver base to level the area. I also mixed in a bag of cement based on a YouTube video that I watched that recommended mixing in 1 part of cement for every 4 to 5 parts of paver sand in order to ensure that the foundation settles and also holds in place to avoid any shifting and movements of pavers over time. Now I did, however, make another mistake and forgot to lay the weed barrier, which meant that I had to move some of the sand mixture around. I figured this was fine since it would help level the ground even more before laying that weed barrier. Anyways, I ended up laying the weed barrier and went back to covering it with the remaining paver sand and cement mix. It was also during this time that I realized that I needed a lot more paver sand and cement mix. Now I will admit that this paver base overall took so much longer to build than I expected. Like I mentioned earlier, the greenhouse arrived in under a week, and by that time, I was nowhere near completing the foundation build, so I actually ended up having to put the greenhouse in storage until the foundation was complete. Now, another mistake that I realized I made was not accurately accounting for time. First, I was doing this project on my own, and second, it was the middle and hottest part of the summer here in Texas, which meant I was taking frequent breaks and trying to work during the least hottest parts of the day, which of course is the morning and the evening. Which of course did not help much since this is Texas and temperatures were at around 98 to 100 plus degrees Fahrenheit most of the day, and then during the evenings there were tons of mosquitoes, which are insects that I really hate. Overall, it took me about 2 weeks to lay this foundation. Now, when removing the grass sod, I only removed it and dug down about ½ an inch because I wanted the foundation to sit a little bit higher than the surface of the grass. This does help to keep water from continuously flowing over the surface when it rains, and it also allows for me to mow the lawn around the foundation easier for a much cleaner look. You'll also notice in this part of the video that I started using these polypropylene paver base panels. This is another quick lesson and tip that I learned while doing this project. If you're tackling a similar project, using a mixture of these base panels and leveling sand will save you so much time and money. These are great for keeping paver stones in place and reducing the overall cost of the project, since one panel measures 24 inches by 36 inches and it replaces the need for up to 5 bags of sand. You'll only end up needing enough bags of sand to spot level any uneven areas. And then these will also not move or erode over time. Now, I only discovered these near the end of my paver projects, so I just ended up spot placing them under the remaining perimeter pavers, and then I filled up the rest of the areas with sand. Ideally though, you'll want to get enough to cover the entire space. Now once I finally finished placing the stones, I staked down paver edging around the entire foundation. This really just helps to reduce erosion of the paver sand and hopefully keeps the pavers securely in place. Now because our ground here in Texas is filled with clay and stone, I ended up having to pre-drill holes before driving in the stakes to secure the edging. And then finally, I cleaned off the surface of any sand and particles using my leaf blower, and then I finished off the project with some polymeric sand, which is used to fill in the gaps between each paver and lock all of the pavers in place. Now, this step just involves pouring the material across most of the gaps, taking a broom across the entire surface to level it off and distribute the sand equally, and then finishing with a shower of water to harden and firm up the sand so it turns into a solid cement-like mixture to secure each paver in place, making it a very solid foundation. Okay, so really quickly, let's go over the cost breakdown for the materials to complete this foundation. So we've got first the 28, 23 by 23 inch pavers, which cost a total of about $280. We've then got the 35 bags of paver-based sand, which cost a total of $212. We've got the 6 bags of concrete cement, which was around $24. We've got 1 roll of weed barrier, which was around $15. And then we've got 1 case of paver polymeric sand, which is about $29. We had the 4 polypropylene paver-based panels, which was around $52 total. And then we've got 4 paver edges and stakes, which was about $66, all coming to a total of $676. Now, at the end of the day, $676 is not bad considering if I hired a contractor to do this, the project would have cost around $1,800 to $2,000. Once I finally completed the foundation, I did let it sit for a couple of days before starting on the greenhouse, which, as you can see, came in 2 fairly large boxes. Now, they weren't too hard to move, and I started by unpacking everything with the exception of the polycarbonate wall panels, which were all packed in one of the boxes. Now, what's nice is that each part down to the screws were numbered, so I started by lining each part up by number so it would be easier to find, and then I verified all the parts were there. Keep in mind that all the parts are made from an aluminum metal material, so if you're building under a hot sun, those metal parts will definitely heat up quickly to a point where they are almost too hot to touch. Now, assembly overall was easy, especially because each part was numbered. And within no time, I had the whole frame set up. Now, as long as you do follow the instructions, you should have no issues assembling this greenhouse. These upper gable frames were where I faced the biggest challenge because unfortunately, they can be assembled in the wrong direction and orientation, and also because the diagram and the instructions were not too clear and very hard to see. Nonetheless, after trial and error, I got it all figured out. By this time, I was also beginning to realize that this greenhouse was not as big or as tall as I had expected. Nonetheless, it does clearly outline the dimensions and the measurements for this greenhouse in the details when you're purchasing the unit. This, of course, is not a showstopper because the greenhouse is still a little over 7.5 feet in height, allowing me to stand and walk through without needing to bend or duck down. The next challenge came with these upper beams, which in my opinion requires 2 people to make it easier to connect both ends of the frame. Now you can do it on your own, however, it will take a lot of upper body strength, particularly in your shoulders, to get these parts connected. Now, one piece of advice if you are building this on your own. I would hold off on assembling the beam and mount each half before connecting them. Now I did this on the second upper beam and it made it so much easier. Now, one thing that's not shown in this video is the installation of the ventilation windows on the roof of the greenhouse, which you can see hanging on the center upper beam in this video. You'll want to install both of those ventilation windows before connecting both ends of the roof's center beam, because installation requires you to slide them into place on either side of the beam. Now, if you do end up connecting the beam on both ends, you will eventually need to go back and disconnect one end to get those windows installed. Now, another piece of advice when assembling this greenhouse is to also make sure you don't tighten the bolts on any portion of the greenhouse where you need to install a polycarbonate panel. This makes sliding the panels into place so much easier because once the bolts are tightened, they really lock down the panels. Overall, it took me about 2 days to assemble the entire greenhouse, and a majority of the build went smoothly. I could have probably finished it in a day, but because of the heat, I had to take a lot of breaks. Now, there were a few moments where I had to go back and make some adjustments because some parts were assembled incorrectly, but it wasn't anything that was too difficult to figure out. Now again, the greenhouse is a bit smaller than I expected, but it will definitely serve its purpose until it's time for me to upgrade. Now, I have had it sitting here for about 2 weeks now, and it has done an excellent job withstanding some of the heavy winds that have come through. The test of time will be during the rainy season and winter, which is just around the corner, so make sure to check back to see what the update is on this greenhouse. Now, I did take some extra measures to secure the greenhouse by drilling and bolting the structure into the pavers and the ground. And I also sealed the lower half of the greenhouse with some outdoor weatherproof silicone to help keep small bugs and dirt from getting into the greenhouse. And that has done an excellent job. Now, as you can see, the greenhouse did turn out nicely, and it will be a regular fixture in some of my regular upcoming gardening and hydroponic videos, which again, I plan to start filming and sharing updates more consistently. So with all that in mind, the first order of business, if you'll do me the honor of subscribing and following along, is to furnish this greenhouse and then get my existing hydroponic towers and my experimental prototype hydroponic towers that I've been working on for a while now moved into this greenhouse so that we can see how well they survive and grow year-round as we start this new journey. Anyways, thanks for checking out this video and following me along on this build process for this greenhouse. I look forward to giving you an update on my grow progress in some of my upcoming videos. Thanks again for Temu for sponsoring this video and sending me this greenhouse. I would definitely recommend it as a low-cost solution for those of you who want a starter greenhouse at an affordable price. Now, as of this recording, this specific unit is no longer available on Temu. However, it has been replaced by a larger 8x16 two-door model at the same low price. So if you're interested in purchasing this or any other model of greenhouse, then I would definitely recommend you purchase from Temu using my referral link in the description section below. Anyways, I do hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Please make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell icon to get notified when I post new content. I'll see you in the next update video.